New York City has always been a hotbed for illegal immigration and a dumping point to bring in like a lot of migrants. Uh, right now, New York City is under siege and it's getting out of control in all the five boroughs. There are migrants walking around, crime is on the rise, running rampant. There's a lot of cartels. There's a lot of different groups forming together from Venezuela, Guatemala, and all these different places with these influx of migrants coming in. New York City was already super crowded and super high, super expensive to live, where you didn't have enough room for the people that lived there. Now you're bringing in hundreds of thousands of migrants, and they just sleeping in the streets, sleeping in the subways. It's just a whole bunch of foolishness. And former police officer and now Mayor Eric Adams was once in support of these migrants. He was championing and doing what he was told from the people up top. He was doing what he was told. He was leading the charge for these migrants to come. When you had a homeless situation in New York City that's unprecedented, it's out of control. And right in front of your face, they're finding food and shelter for these migrants, and they're showing you what they was capable of doing and could have done. But let's listen to what Mayor Eric Adams is now saying about this migrant crisis, where now the taxpayers and the people are very disgruntled. Let's listen to what the mayor had to say.
City of New York, I don't, weigh into immigration issues, border issues. I have to provide services for families that are here, and that's what we're going to do. And that's what our responsibility as a city. I'm proud that this is a right to shelter state, and we're going to continue to do that. This is horrific when you think about what the governor is doing, the governor of Texas, after a month of traveling across the border, placing on the bus with no direction to come here to New York. And New York is a city that has always represented the democratic values and the values of our city of showing our compassion. And that's what we're doing.
It's so crazy. You have foreigners that's now stashing and hiding migrants in their businesses, their basements. Like, it's just out of control. They got this Congolese man. He was on the news and he was hiding hundreds of Congolese in his businesses across New York, from Queens, I think Queens to Manhattan. He just got busted. Check this out.
Men were cramped into the basements of his two stores, many with beds stacked on top of each other. One of the illegal shelters was in Fordham in the Bronx, the other in Richmond Hill, Queens.
CBS 2's Jennifer Bisram reports now on the safety concerns and also the new option the city is exploring to house migrants.
Every day I talk to them. I've been running back and forth between Queens and the Bronx.
Two basements of businesses in two boroughs housing African migrant men. Ibu Sar has been leading the charge.
They don't know where to go.
Sar owns both businesses and leases space at both locations. But city officials say he was housing dozens of migrants in illegal sleeping quarters in Queens and the Bronx. Dozens of beds and cots in tight spaces in the cellars and on the first floors, with limited ventilation, exits, and bathrooms. Inspectors also finding e-bikes, space heaters, and hot plates.
That Congolese man was charging those Africans $300 a day. So he's cashing in. But if he's cashing in, how many other people was doing the same thing in New York City, all across the five boroughs, that's not getting caught? These people are not being counted on the census. These people are walking the streets late at night. Could you imagine your mother coming home from work and you have these undocumented migrants on the streets? You don't know who they are, what they're about, what they've done in the country that they come from. So now you have the mayor. He's backtracking now because the taxpayers and the people are saying, listen, we're not going to reelect you. And, I believe that you always going to have migrants come here because you're going to have people that's going to do the jobs that probably Americans that's been here for a long time don't want to do. Then you have some that's educated. They come and they add to the economy. They add to helping build the system. But you gotta do it legally. You gotta come here and do it legally. So now Mayor Eric Adams is backtracking. He's backtracking now. He's doing the Michael Jackson move. I'm talking about Jerry Curl Michael Jackson, 1981 Michael Jackson. He's doing a vicious moonwalk. Check this out.
I don't believe people who are violent in our city and commit repeated crimes should have the privilege of being in our city.
I mean, we hear Eric Adams, but the people in New York City have spoken, and now there's a police officer. He's speaking on what he feels should be done and how he feels as a taxpaying red-blooded American, how he feels about this migrant crisis. Check this out.
Well, what we've been seeing with the migrants and the crime wave, if you will, is robberies and purse snatches on mopeds, which we took care of. We'll talk about it in a moment. We're seeing pickpockets on the train, pickpockets in Times Square. We're seeing domestic violence, and most recent now we're seeing mob-like activity. People going to stores, Bloomingdale's, Sunglass, LensCrafters just the other day, snatching glasses and fleeing the store.
I saw that video of the same thing at an Apple store.
Correct.
They go in like a mob and they just start taking everything.
Correct. So this is what we're seeing right now, but just like any other crew, if you will, a group of people, we don't care who you are, but when the moped robberies and purse snatches were taking effect earlier this year, we arrested all of them. And guess what? We don't see it anymore. So we have some crews with the migrants committing crime. We're going to deal with them like any other crime wave we have and put them in jail. And quite frankly, what the mayor just said, if you come to this country seeking the American dream, and while you're waiting for your status to be upgraded, and you're committing violent crimes against New Yorkers or this country, you should be put in jail, and once that term is over, you forfeit the right to the American dream and get out of our country.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear you talk like this, Chief, because this is exactly how most people feel. It's how I felt when I saw that illegal come out of being processed and give everybody the finger. And I'm thinking, why isn't this guy on a plane back to wherever he came from right now? What is he doing, giving us the finger now?
A complete slap on our face. And also gives the migrants who are here who want to seek the American dream, who want to work and want to contribute, gives them a bad name. We're talking about a small group of people, not the whole 170,000. But we're going to deal with it, and you're not going to harm New York City. You're not going to harm this country. We're going to try to put you in jail like any other group. And like I said, you forfeit that.
You have so many people from New York that don't have access to health care. They can't get jobs. It's, the cost of living in New York City is just astronomical. They can't afford to live there. And now you're bringing in these immigrants and they're able to get job employment. They're able to get health care. They're able to get so many different things right in the face of the New Yorkers that's been living there and paying taxes and going to work. And some of them may landed on hard times. And, we've seen videos of guys coming home from work or going to work, working 40 hours, but they lost their home and they was living in the homeless shelter. But they can't go to the homeless shelter because these shelters is now made for migrants, not the actual Americans. That's Americans on paper, these migrants. But I want y'all to remember there was a woman that went into, from New York City that went into Harlem, and she was showing how these migrants was living. And they was living better than most New Yorkers. Check this out.
I was one of the few Harlem residents that went on that tour, and it's a beautiful location. And we have a housing project right across the street, St. Nicholas Houses, where they're getting ready to be relocated or displaced because they're going under renovation. So I did ask the mayor and I asked all the other city officials there, instead of displacing the senior citizens or people that are disabled, if we're going to make this a migrant or we're going to make this a shelter period, why not make it for the people across the street in that housing project of over 3,000 people with disabilities and senior citizens? Why not move them in there?
My concern is about the black residents in New York City. Like I said, there was already a struggle in the Bronx, a struggle in Brooklyn, Harlem, Queens, and so many different sections. Black folks was already struggling. And now you have these migrants coming in, and it makes it even worse. And as I said, there's an influx of crime going on. You already had gang violence amongst the young black and Latino Americans and Italians. You already had like vigilantism and gang violence going on in New York, but now you bring these immigrants in. You already had the school dropout rate was already super high and astronomical. You already had the unemployment rate. It's just, I don't, like, what are they thinking about? What are they thinking about bringing these people in and flooding an already flooded city? New York is already super crowded, overcrowded. It's too many people that live in New York City. And then you bring them there, and it's just tearing the city apart. It's tearing the city apart, and I don't. For the black folks that live there, I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I know that the Latino population now is going to outnumber the blacks that live there. So that's going to change the whole dynamic. And one thing that I do know is Latinos can come around black folks and they don't have problems like that because we don't bother them. And I know that because I'm Black American and Cuban. We don't bother them, as a Black American. But the thing is, when they get their numbers up, and we got to live amongst them. They don't treat us they don't treat us right. They're not the same. A lot of them are racist. A lot of them don't see us the same. We already know what's going on with our brothers and sisters on the West Coast. So you're trying to turn the East Coast into that same thing. And like I said, I'm in Philadelphia, and we got our numbers up. We don't bother with the Mexicans and Guatemalans and stuff like that. But when they start getting their numbers up as a Latino group, the Dominicans, the Guatemalans, the Puerto Ricans, will it be a problem with the blacks? Because it seems like everybody got a problem with us, but we don't bother. We don't have a problem with nobody else. It's a sad thing, man, but this is what they're pushing here. But I'm going to cut this video short here. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. Whenever groups come into our communities, do we harass and bother them? But when they get their numbers up, do they treat us the way we treated them? Leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.